All right, Colts fans, it's been a week. That's for sure. So, what we're going to do tonight is we're still going to talk about what happened this week, but it's time to move our attention to the Las Vegas Raiders. Welcome, everybody, to the Horseshoe Huddle podcast. My name is Andrew Moore. You can follow me at Andrew Moore NFL alongside my co host here, Drake Wally. You can follow him at D. Walster Drake. How you doing, man? How's the week in the Colts world been for you since we last talked on Monday night?
Well, I've slept on it, and I've come up with the same answer that I had when we did this on Monday, and it's insanity. It just doesn't seem to stop. Press conferences are getting like publicity, like someone just won the Super Bowl. I mean, it's a good time and also a very crazy time to be a Colts fan for sure, man. So
Yeah, the press conferences are turning into must-see TV. They really are. It feels like, it's been a whirlwind all week as far in the world of the Indianapolis Colts, but we're going to dive right into it because, again, we've got a lot to talk about tonight. We are going to be talking about the presser that happened on Monday night. Jeff Saturday's introductory presser as interim head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. Then we're going to dive into the meat of this weekend. Colts Raiders. We're going to preview the game for you, give some bold predictions, give some keys to victory, and then we're going to give you our predictions of who we think is going to come out on top on Sunday. So, lot to talk about this evening. But first, before we get into that, I want to tell you to go follow the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook at the Horseshoe Huddle, on Twitter at Colts on FN, and subscribe to the YouTube channel where some of you might be watching us right now. Go ahead and hit subscribe, hit that bell so you know when Drake and I are going live on the Horseshoe Huddle podcast, because we're going to be here throughout the rest of this insane Indianapolis Colts season. And whether they win or lose, I think all Colts fans can agree these last 8 weeks of the season are going to be very interesting, and it's going to really shape where this franchise goes over the next few years to the next decade, I have a feeling. So a lot of interesting, fun things coming up for the Indianapolis Colts. But Drake, let's dive right in to the big news from Monday still. The Colts hiring Jeff Saturday as interim head coach. And they had a press conference for the ages there on West 56th Street there at the Colts facility. After watching that, what was your gut reaction? What was your initial reaction to what went on Monday night?
Well, just to let all the fans know, we're gonna break down each of the execs in this case and the coach. But overall, it was one of the weirdest, vaguest. We heard, I think it was on Pat McAfee. I think it was Zach Kiefer said, I heard a Mars reference. I heard a Michael Jordan reference. I mean, it was so fun. It was fun. It was weird. It made a lot of people upset, made a lot of people hopeful, weirdly. But overall, holy cow, man, that's one of the weirdest, most insane press conferences I think I've ever seen.
Absolutely. And shout out to Tim Milliken, follower of the Colts podcast. Good to see you, my friend. Thanks for joining us this evening. But yeah, I think if I'm being honest, that press conference was just as shocking as this news that came out that day. I mean, from the things that Jim Irsay said, from what Chris Ballard said, I think just my initial reaction to all of that was that Jeff Saturday was the guy that came out looking the best out of all three of them. I mean, he came in with a passion. He came in being himself, showing that he can be a good leader. And I think you can sense those qualities right off the bat and sense the passion that he is going to have as the head coach of the Indianapolis Colts. But let's start out with the guy that I think made the most news was Jim Irsay. And you're right. I mean, he was saying some very off the wall things. He talked a lot about the past. He talked a lot about Jeff Saturday not having any fear. What were your takeaways from what Jim Irsay said on Monday night?
You know, I wish I could. It's a little past Halloween. I wish I could have dressed up as Jim Irsay and just done a very simple impersonation. Three things, three words: You know, and sometimes those three words would follow each other into Michael Jordan or, this and that. I thought Jim, the thing is, Pat McAfee, I don't mean to reference him so much, but he played with the Colts and he did a great job of, he did a little breakdown of what it's like to know Jim Irsay. He said, look, this guy's an artist. This guy's weird. He's like, he thinks differently. He says his words are different. They're going to shock some people. And if you don't know him, you're not going to understand it till you see it. That's fair and all, but I felt like he did not comfort anyone. I thought that he didn't give the press what they wanted. He didn't even answer really any question with a concrete and weighted answer. It was just so up in the air, fluff, air, random this, snag that out of nowhere. It was weird. He was the weirdest of all three of them. In my opinion.
Yeah. And I think Stats Matt hits it right on the head. Thanks for joining us again, buddy. I think Irsay wants so badly to relive the past, he can't let it go and think about the feeling of 12 to 22 years ago. And that's true. He kept referencing the past about how he's never hired a losing coach before, and he kept talking about how the Colts are the second winningest team since the 2000s. But Peyton Manning isn't here anymore. Andrew Luck is not here anymore, and neither one of those guys is walking through the door. Jim Irsay seems like he is living in the past, and that's just not how things are going. And he took some shots at the media, calling out their accountability. He did say that this isn't rocket science. We're not sending rockets to Mars. He also made the famous quote now of he doesn't know how sausage is made, but he does know how to make a winning football team. He did compare Chris Ballard to Michael Jordan, which got a little face reaction out of Chris Ballard as well. It was just very odd. And for an owner that, to many on the outside, looks like he is making very impulsive decisions with going and benching Matt Ryan for Sam Ellinger, possibly being behind the firing of Marcus Brady, firing Frank Reich, and then bringing in Jeff Saturday, who, Jeff Saturday, we've talked about this on Monday, hell of a guy that was an all-pro, Pro Bowl caliber talent in his playing days, but a guy that's not in the building. He during the day-to-day, he might be a consultant to the Colts currently, but he's not a guy that is in there in those meeting rooms every single day with this team. And for Irsay to get so defensive and for him to kind of come out and it looked like he just had the attitude of, well, I'm smarter than you. It's not a good look for the Colts that look like a team that's spiraling right now.
Well, and you want to see the most concrete answers from the top guy. That makes you feel a little bit better, even though he's a suit wearing billionaire. They run a team, and the thing is, they know football. They know the transactions. They know the salary cap. They know it all.
Well, but and Irsay too. Irsay's been around football his entire life, so he knows football more than other owners do. So you're right about that.
Well, and he also, we know, was underneath his father. When he owned the team and actually pulled a quarterback mid-game, and I think fired a coach in the middle of the game. I see where Jim gets it from. He gets it from his dad, but at the same time, you want to see like clear-cut answers. Even we'll get to it, but there were other people that gave their honest opinion where you were like, I do not question. I'm not walking away from that statement from that guy thinking, what the hell was he talking about? I was saying that almost every single time I heard any statement or question answered by Jim Irsay. And it's no disrespect to Mr. Irsay, but holy cow, man, 20 years you had Luck and you had Manning. That does not happen very often. He does not understand struggle. I don't think he does.
Right. And now I think where this kind of moves us into our next point, moving on to our next guy, and Chris Ballard. Chris Ballard has been under a lot of heat from me too in my articles that I've written this year and especially over the past week that and I don't think he really did anything to calm those worries on Monday night. Chris Ballard seemed very defensive. He seemed very very defiant when the media was asking him questions, and he said, you guys have been pushing for me to draft wideouts, and now all of a sudden our O line can't is underperforming. But the thing is, you got these offensive linemen, you paid them these huge contracts. Just because you drafted Alec Pearson, Michael Pittman, doesn't mean you neglected the offensive line. This is your team. You're the one that's gone out and signed off on these band-aid approaches at quarterback in Philip Rivers, Carson Wentz, and Matt Ryan, instead of going all in and moving up in the draft to draft a young quarterback. Your fingerprints are all over this. And I know he said that he does take some responsibility for it, but at the same time, to be so defensive like that and to have the look on your face like you don't even want to be there, it's just not a good look, especially when it seems like your head coach was kicked to the curb, and you, the guy that can put this roster together, doesn't seem like you have any repercussions coming your way, at least right now. So in my opinion, it was not a good look for Ballard on Monday night. What do you think?
I've been taking notes here. Angry, clearly doesn't like Irsay. Pride is hurt, and he blamed a rookie. Okay, Chris Ballard is one of the smartest, most patient, most understanding general managers in this game. He doesn't pull the trigger when he needs to. That's a big issue, but he's never acted like this. Okay, like you can tell either he didn't like the fact that Reich was canned, or he's really upset that Irsay is taking so much control, because the fact that he said, hey, y'all gave me shit for not getting a wide receiver, and then I look up and our offensive line is struggling. We need to really patch that up. Well, it's led to
And that's a direct quote. That's a direct quote from Ballard too.
Yeah, and it started with letting Danico Autry go. This whole, and that's I can't take all the credit for that. I mean, Brett Coleman actually, I saw something that he actually came up with, and it's genius. It has been a spiraling effect that really exacerbated when Andrew Luck retired, and it sent this whole thing into a total out of control spiral. And I think that he's just really pissed off at this point. He's not happy, and you can tell that he's clearly pissed off more than anything.
And Stats Matt again makes a good point. Said Ballard, I think, looked worse. Irsay is always known to be a babbling hippie. Ballard just seemed standoffish, and he really did. He really did, and it very well could be that it's because Jim Irsay is going above Ballard to make these decisions, as far as the decision at quarterback, the decision to fire Frank Reich, because Ballard was asked, were you on board with hiring Jeff Saturday? And Ballard said that the discussions were spirited as they can be. And you know what that means? That means that he wasn't. It means he was fighting, saying that this would not be my decision.
That's a vanilla answer, saying I did not like that.
I have heard from one source, I haven't been able to verify it yet, that Ballard really pushed for Bubba Ventrone to take over as the head coach, and Irsay said no. Irsay said he wanted to bring somebody from the outside, so that very well could be. But that's kind of what that's just the feeling I got from it, and that's why I wrote such a big piece about this on Tuesday after the presser, is that Ballard and Irsay did not give the fan base really any reason to be comforted or think that this franchise is heading in the right direction. And for when the two guys at the top don't do that, that's a huge concern, especially when the head coach that's only been here for 5 minutes comes out looking better than those two did on the night. And he really did, and he has throughout the week. Jeff Saturday has looked very good. I mean, when he's spoken to the media, he's been passionate, he's been upfront and honest. He said, I could suck at this job. After 8 games, I'll say, God bless you, I'm out of here. But he could also be a good coach. He could also light a spark under this team, because he is a guy that isn't as laid back as Reich. He will get on you. He will tell you how it is, but he'll also be a big cheerleader. So how do you feel about Jeff Saturday, and how did he look in not only Monday's presser, but what you've heard him say throughout the week?
I actually have, I've just tried to make it one word notes, but for Saturday, I've got professional. I've got very calm. I've got realistic, not delusional like Irsay, which, as Stats Matt pointed out, that's just Jim Irsay. But I thought that Jeff Saturday, he's been literally telling people, I remember Greg Doyle, actually. I used used to work with him at Indy Star. He literally goes, "So you're going to sit there and tell me that you yada yada 12 hours before this and yada yada?" And he goes, "Yes." And you can tell he's dealt with Doyle before because he used to play for us. And so he's like, "I just don't believe that." And he goes, "Hey, look at me. Look at me." That's exactly what happened. Like, that's not a quote, but I mean, Saturday showed in that press conference, I'm literally here to do my absolute best. I love this team. I love this city. I love these players. They don't know me. I don't know them yet, but I know that. And I'm doing everything I can to get to know them. And you've been hearing left and right about how these players are saying that we feel a different vibe coming from Jeff Saturday. I mean, you're talking about an undersized lineman who used to double pancake Mario Williams and said defensive tackle for the Houston Texans. I mean, this is a man who's used to being undercut. All right. So he expects this. He knows this. He knows the expectations are gone. Let's see what happens, man. I have to say, I wasn't going to say I was going to do it, but I'm drinking the Jeff Saturday Kool-Aid. I'm all in. I can't wait to see what he's going to do.
And Tim Milliken says, normally I'm drawn to babbling hippies. Hey, Tim, whatever floats your boat, my guy. And then Wyatt Law coming in with some heat as well. Good to see you, Wyatt. He says, has anyone ascertained why the Monday presser originally slated for 6 p.m. was delayed multiple times until 8 p.m.? Was alcohol involved with the winky face? I don't think alcohol was involved, and I haven't been able to gather an answer as to why things were pushed back. I think it was because Saturday was meeting with the offensive staff and trying to meet with as many people as possible before the presser. That's what I've gained from it. But yeah, I mean, I it's hard to root again. I mean, you can't not root for Jeff Saturday. He's a guy that's going to come in. He's going to give it his all. He's a guy that is going to be very honest with everybody, and that's all you can ask for him to give it his all, for him to be passionate, try his best. If he turns out to be something great, awesome. The Colts have found their next head coach. If not, and the Colts lose all the rest of their games, the Colts will probably have a top 5 pick in the NFL draft. They'll know that Jeff Saturday is not the answer. They can move on, get their quarterback of the future, get their coach of the future, and move on. But hey, we'll talk about that when we get there. But I think it's time to move on to the game this weekend. From a 3-5-1 Colts team going up against a 2-6 Raiders team. Probably not the most interesting game normally when you look at just the records, but when you talk about everything that's happened with the Colts and Jeff Saturday, how Josh McDaniels is floundering there in Las Vegas, now with the news today that tight end Darren Waller and wide receiver Hunter Renfrow on the Raiders were sent to injured reserve for at least the next 4 weeks. There's a lot of storylines surrounding this game. And I think it's going to be one that is interesting just for the sheer fact of how is Saturday going to handle the in-game operations on less than a week of preparation for this game.
Well, and I was actually talking to a couple people, and if there's a game where Saturday has to come in and try to prove himself, you got a team that is not performing under Josh McDaniels like everybody had thought. They just lost their tight end. They also don't have arguably one of the better slot guys in the NFL. And you have a team that was really highly touted with Devontae Adams being in that Derek Carr connection like they had at Fresno State. Well, that has been great for fantasy, but it has not translated to wins. So this is a crazy game. There's a lot of inactives too for both teams. And I think that you're going to see some players that don't typically get that chance to step up. And I think that they might be the X factor. So,
yeah. And you kind of talked about how that Derek Carr to Devontae Adams connection is good for fantasy, but it hasn't necessarily translated to wins. It's because that Raiders defense has been awful. And I think let's start by talking about this Colts offense, which has been the butt of criticism all season long, and rightfully so. But they're going up against a Raiders defense that is 28th in the NFL in yards allowed, 26th in pass yards allowed. They're a little better against the run, 14th in rush yards allowed, but 27th in points. They're giving up they're giving up one of the most points in the league as a team. So if this is for a Colts team that is starting a new head coach, a new offensive play caller, as pass game specialist, assistant quarterback coach Parks Frazier will be the one calling plays on Sunday. This is a good opportunity for the Colts offense to get back on track because they're not going up against a defense that's as potent as the New England Patriots as they did last week. This Raiders defense is really struggling. The pass rush has not nearly been what they thought it was going to be, with Max Crosby on one side and Chandler Jones on another, which is good news for the Colts offensive line. But at the same time, those guys can still get it done and really take off on any given Sunday. So how do you think this Colts offensive line is going to stack up against a Chandler Jones and a Max Crosby, and can they give some protection to Sam Ehlinger this weekend?
Well, you've got Raymond obviously on the left side, and you have and he's going to handle, I would think, probably Jones for the most part, which on paper that sounds a little scary, to be honest with you. But then Max Crosby is going to be on the other side with Braden Smith, and it's going to really depend, I think, on, because see, this is where the ambiguity happens, is Jeff Saturday is the coach. We don't know if they're going to run the ball more. We don't know if they're going to try play action passing. We haven't even heard I think he alluded, maybe I'm wrong, is Sam Ehlinger did he get confirmed as the starter?
Yes, Sam Ehlinger will start on Sunday.
Okay. Well, I think that in that case, you're probably going to see some serious running, and I think it's probably going to be in the interior. It's going to be within the gaps, like right there on the east side of the center. I think they're going to try to honestly avoid those pass rushers, but they haven't fared well against worse linemen. So I think, if I'm going with my gut, I think the Colts will be able to handle, just like everybody else has, at least on the same level, Chandler Jones and Max Crosby.
We'll have to see. I mean, I think we can have faith that they'll give them a fight, but I think Max Crosby and Chandler Jones are really licking their chops right now because they see an offensive line like the Colts that's struggling so poorly. And I think if Matt Pryor goes in there at right guard, it starts. I'm not sure if he will. I'm not sure if they will start Will Fries at right guard, but you could possibly see some of the same things that the Patriots did, where they start Crosby or Jones on the outside, bring them up the middle on a stunt. And will Matt Pryor or Will Fries be able to block that? I mean, from the past couple games, the answer seems to be no. So if they can't do that, this Colts offense is going to be in trouble once again. And but I think, from hearing what Parks Frazier said today, I think this is going to be very important for the Colts offense on Sunday, is getting Sam Ehlinger into a rhythm. They never got Sam Ehlinger into a rhythm against the Patriots, and you saw how much he struggled. Try to get the ball out of his hands quickly with quick passes, quick, easy. And I wrote this in my piece on Ehlinger when I watched the film against the Patriots. When he was able to have a couple seconds in the pocket, which was rare, but when he was able to have that, he was able to do one or two quick reads, get the ball out quickly. He started to establish a little bit of a rhythm until he was sacked or something went wrong. But I think that's where the Colts really need to focus on this week. Looks like Jonathan Taylor is on his way to being back, which is huge for this Colts offense to take some pressure off of Sam Ehlinger. And if that happens, we might be able to see the Colts move it a little bit better down the field. But we'll have to see. So I think that's going to be the area to watch as far as where the game is decided. But maybe the other side, where the Colts defense is going up against the Raiders offense, that's where all the star power is, I feel like. That's where you've got Derek Carr and Devontae Adams going up against, or Josh Jacobs, too, if you want to consider him a high-level star, going up against DeForest Buckner, Shaquille Leonard, Stephon Gilmore, Kwity Paye, and that Colts defense that is really playing very, very well. So how do you think these two units match up with one another?
Well, I mean, Derek Carr, I mean, hell, I was pulling for us to trade for him at one point. I really think that he's a very efficient quarterback that doesn't get looked at enough. He's always been with historically bad defenses, and then they have the whole thing with Gruden. So Carr's a great quarterback. I think that Adams obviously is doing fantastic, 48 catches. He's obviously got almost 700 yards and 7 touchdowns. But if you look at the rest of this offense, I mean, it's Mac Hollins is your next best receiver. Okay. And a lot of people only know him because you needed a wide receiver on your waiver wire. Okay. So I think that pass rush, I think that the line for the Raiders has underperformed, and the Colts defense has overperformed. Okay. So I really think that defensive line is going to give them some issues. And I really think Carr is going to be running, and I think Jacobs is going to be stuffed. I think he's going to have to throw at least 40 passes.
You and Stats Matter are thinking the same thing. He said the Raiders offensive line isn't what it used to be either. So, and I agree, especially when you see how DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart have been playing. Kwity Paye coming back off that ankle injury and getting 8 tackles last week and a sack. Kwity Paye is coming on. He really is. And if Kwity Paye can stay healthy the rest of the year, I would not be surprised if he closes in on double-digit sacks once the year is over. He could get up to 8, 9, maybe even 10 sacks, I think, once the season's over, because Kwity Paye is coming on so strong. We thought that Yannick Ngakoue would be the star pass rusher on this team, and it's really been Kwity Paye when Kwity Paye's been in there. So I absolutely think that this Colts defensive line has the ability to get after the Raiders. I really do. Make Derek Carr frustrated. And we've seen when Derek Carr is pressured, especially up the middle, and you've got 2 of the best up the middle in DeForest Buckner and Grover Stewart, that's when Derek Carr gets antsy, and you can force him into some mistakes where guys like Shaquille Leonard, Bobby Okereke, Stephon Gilmore, even Isaiah Rodgers can take advantage, make plays on the ball, and try to get some turnovers for this Colts defense, because that's the thing that's been lacking. While the defense has been playing outstanding football, and I think good enough that the Colts should have a winning record this year.
Yes. Yep.
They have not produced the same amount of turnovers that they did a year ago. And I think that's hurt them to an extent. It's allowed longer drives, and where the Colts can't get off the field, it's made the offense have to go the length of the field most of the time, instead of setting up short fields where they don't have to drive 75, 80 yards. And I think that does make a difference. But yes, I do think that the Colts defense definitely has the edge in this matchup. If I was betting on this game, I would probably say take the under, because I think if we're going to see a defensive struggle again, I think both defenses are going to give each other's offense some fits, and it's going to be whichever offense doesn't make the most mistakes or have the most turnovers that we'll see if they can come out on top. But I'm going to run through the injury report real quick from today, because the Colts now have 2 practices within the book, so we kind of have a clear view of how things are shaking out. So we'll take a look here. So the Colts might be very thin at the tight end position this week. Mo Alley-Cox has missed both days with an ankle injury. He's been in a boot all week, and Jelani Woods has missed both practices with a shoulder injury. So could be Kylan Granson, and they did just sign a tight end on the practice squad that might get called up real quick. That will definitely have some implications as far as protections, because Mo Alley-Cox has been used a lot as that 6th blocker in there. We'll have to see. Tony Brown is nursing a hamstring injury. He was limited today. Deion Jackson, where he had that knee injury against the Patriots, he hasn't practiced all week. That's one to keep an eye on. But the guys that's interesting that have returned, Jonathan Taylor, as we said, he has a possibility of coming back this week, was limited on Wednesday, full today, said he's feeling the best he has regarding the ankle in some time, which is good. Yes. So I would expect Jonathan Taylor to be out there on Sunday. And Matt Ryan, who hasn't practiced in a couple weeks, didn't practice on Wednesday, was a full participant today. I mean, as we've already said, Sam Ehlinger is going to be the one that starts, and Sam Ehlinger is going to play on Thursday. Or on Sunday. But Jim Irsay has said that Jeff Saturday has the full authority to choose what quarterback he wants to play. Could we see Matt Ryan return in a week or 2 once that shoulder is fully healed, even though Frank Reich said before that Ehlinger would be the quarterback the rest of the season? It would not surprise me in the least. What do you think?
Well, I think that especially since they've said that they don't want to, like, I know Ursay said that it's BS when people have implied that we're tanking. So I'll use that as my main base here. I think that, and I said this on Monday, I think that at some point you will see Matt Ryan back in under center, just because the offense. And I love Sam Ellinger, and we've talked about this. We all want to believe that the next Tom Brady is going to be, your 6th round pick. It was one time. It was one time that there was a guy that was on that level that was in the 6th round. It's not often. And so the offense, nonetheless, does still run at its most efficient under Matt Ryan. So I think that there's a really good chance that you could even still see him this Sunday with everything that's happened. No one knows. I mean, my God, on Sunday, you could get a report that says, right there in your Twitter, Andrew, that says, hey, guess what? Matt Ryan's not the starter. Like, you have no idea what's going to happen with this organization. So.
Very, very well could be. And then the last guy on the injury report today was Shaquille Leonard with back and ankle injuries. He wasn't on the injury report on Wednesday, but he did not practice on Thursday. So hopefully he did not tweak anything. I haven't heard anything specifically about that. But as far as a guy that you want to stay on the right track so he can get to 100% at some point here in 2022, you definitely don't want to see any setbacks there. But let's move it along here, Drake. Let's give our bold predictions and keys to victory. I should have flipped those two. Let's start with our keys to victory, and then we'll kind of move into our bold predictions and then give our prediction for the game on Sunday. What are your keys to victory for the Colts to beat Las Vegas?
Well, in my opinion, there's 3. One, you do have to block the edges. So they're going to have to, that's where all the strength is on their pass rush. And I mean, Crosby has 6 sacks. Chandler Jones has 0.5. Okay. They have got to keep that trend going and maybe just try to stymie Crosby a little bit because he's been the more productive one. Number 2 is they're going to have to run the ball because Ellinger is under a new regime completely. And who knows, whoever the quarterback is, maybe it's number 9, maybe it's Foles, who knows. Whoever that quarterback is, they're going to have to run the ball. They got Taylor back. And number 3 is they're going to have to try to eliminate Davante Adams because then, oh man, the targets get really slim for Derek Carr. Your next best one's Max Hollins. Or I believe so. So I think that if they do those 3 things, there's a really good chance that they could come out on top.
Yeah, and I think your first point there about blocking the edge, I think just blocking in general, just not giving up 9 sacks again, and making sure Sam Ellinger doesn't get pile drived into the ground on every other play. I think that's a good start. This offensive line has to turn it around. If unless they do, the Colts have 0 shot of winning any game the rest of the way. I don't care if they're playing, if it's week 18 against the Texans and the Texans still only have 1 win on the season. If the Colts cannot block up front, they have no shot in any game, no matter what quarterback is back there. So you need to see this unit come together. And then second, I think it's going to be on Parks Frazier to really get Sam Ellinger into a rhythm, because this you obviously can't just have him immediately throwing bombs or trying to make throws on long developing plays. You need to get out quick passes, build up this guy's confidence, move him outside the pocket. The Colts did that against the Commanders, where they were able to get him outside on rollouts, let him use his legs a little bit, and it worked. You saw that one time against the New England Patriots. They need to get him outside more, get him away from that pressure, let him make some plays on the run. And then thirdly, you say take away Davante Adams. I say get that pressure on Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a completely different quarterback when he's under pressure versus when he's able to sit back there comfortably and pick a team apart, pick a defense apart, because Derek Carr is a very smart quarterback. He's a very cerebral quarterback. But as soon as you get pressure right in his face, I think I wish his stats bad. Maybe he can look this up, but it's probably a very peculiar stat to find. But I've seen his passer rating has dropped like 20 to 30 points when there's pressure right in his face. So
Those up Ducks.
it's a big difference when you have guys like DeForest Buckner, Grover Stewart right in your face there. So I think that if the Colts want to have a chance, it's got to be those three keys. They've got to really dominate on all 3 points. So, all right, Drake, give me a bold prediction. What's something that nobody expects going to happen that will happen on Sunday?
Well, I think that everybody at this point knows you have to stop Michael Pittman, and I think that with both Ali Cox and Jelani Woods potentially out, you might you probably thought I was going towards Kylan Granson. You know how I feel about Kylan Granson, at least right now. He's on my list. I think Paris Campbell is going to have a big game. I think that he is going, if anyone's going to, I think that he's probably going to lead the team in catches and maybe even yards, because they're going to they're going to oversee Michael Pittman. They're going to watch him like a hawk. So that's my bold prediction. I'd say 7 catches, 65 yards, because they're going to dink and dunk, and a touchdown for Paris Campbell.
Oh, there you go. Hey, another option could be Sam Ehlinger gets his first touchdown. If you're going to have Paris Campbell get a touchdown, because Ehlinger still doesn't have a TD. But I'm all in on the Kwity Paye breakout party. I really am. I think Kwity Paye is going to dominate against the Raiders. I think he's going to keep this going. I'm going to say Kwity Paye gets 2.5 to 3 sacks on Sunday. I really think Kwity Paye is going to be on a tear, force Derek Carr into some tough situations, and I think he's going to give that offensive line of the Raiders some big fits on Sunday.
Yeah, and one of the best things about Kwity Paye is that everybody kind of slept on him, a little bit there for a while, and right now he's finally starting to come out, and unfortunately, it's in the midst of a massive transition. So I could definitely see 2 sacks for 53. Or excuse me, 51. 51, my bad.
Hey, 53, you never know. If they send him on a couple blitzes, maybe 53 gets some sacks too. But right. All right, man. Last question of the evening.
Okay.
What's the prediction? Who comes out on top? Give it to me.
I'm right on the board. I'm on the bandwagon if it's going to be a low-scoring game. I do think that the Colts are going to take this one, though, if nothing else, just because the Raiders can't block. And they are in complete disarray. And right now the Colts are too, but they've got a new injection of energy, which is a little different than having a stale 2-6 record with the same guy who's got you there. 17-13 Colts. Serious prediction.
Okay. I'm going to go with that same exact score, actually, but we're flipping the teams around. I just don't think after the week that has happened, I do think that the offense will play better. I do. But do I have faith that they're going to be able to completely turn it around in Jeff Saturday's first game ever as a head coach in the NFL? I'm just not there yet. And
in 5 days.
I mean, he got here Monday afternoon. So I'm going to go 17-13 Raiders. Okay. I do think that the Colts offense will get a touchdown. And I do think we'll see Sam Ehlinger play better. I think the offensive line will block a little bit better, but I still think that Ehlinger's going to be running a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets sacked another 3 times. And I could see Derek Carr. I could see the defense again keeping this team in the game all game long, and then with about 6 to 5 minutes left in the game, Derek Carr leads them down the field. Gets a touchdown and seals it for him, because the defense just kind of runs out of gas. So we'll see. I think it is going to be low scoring, though. We're going to see probably a little bit of a different feel to this team, a little bit more energy, but at the end of the day, the players got to go out there and play. We got to see the offensive line play better. We got to see Sam Ehlinger play better, and the offense as a whole be much better if they want to compete. So but it'll be interesting. A lot of fun storylines going on. Definitely tune into the game at 4:05 Eastern time. I think it's on CBS this week.
Yep.
But it's gonna be a good one. So I think that's it. Appreciate everybody for joining in tonight. Had a great conversation with you, buddy. I can't wait to be back on Monday. So just everybody remember to please go follow the Horseshoe Huddle on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe on YouTube. Drake's got his lucky Colts helmet. Gonna hopefully
Since I
get
was
the Colts
7,
to a
I've had
victory.
this damn thing, and it just hasn't worked like I wanted. God.
So, but go follow Drake at @DWalsterDrake on Twitter. The man's new to Twitter. Let's get those follower numbers up. The guy's a great follow on Twitter. Make sure you go check him out there. And you can follow me if you would like. I just tweet about the Colts all day. You got some NASCAR tweets in there too. So NASCAR season's over, so it's all Colts for now. But at Andrew Moore NFL. But yeah, we will see you on Monday at 7 Eastern to break down the Colts Raiders game, and we'll see where the Colts are sitting after this weekend's action. So for Drake Wally, I'm Andrew Moore. Thanks for joining us.
See you guys.